Welcome to the Next Generation Dog Podcast, hosted by Melinda Benbow of Urban Uplander Pet Care and Bethany Carter of Sanguine Moon Kennels. Join Melinda and Bethany as they discuss dog breeds, sports, training, health, and much more with special guests. Tune in weekly for all things dedicated to dogs.
Welcome back to another episode of the Next Generation Dog Podcast. I'm Melinda Benbow here with my host, Bethany.
Pleasure's all mine. I'm so excited to be here with our guest, Selena. She's going to talk to us about trick titles through AKC.
I love it. I love it. This is something, as we do these episodes, Bethany and I always think of stuff that we want to do ourselves. And so it's a great way to bring our listeners information, but also it keeps us learning and understanding what all these cool other opportunities are that we can do with our dogs. So AKC Trick Title. Selena, if you are not familiar with Selena, you definitely need to go back and listen to our previous episode about CGC. But if you don't mind just saying hello and reintroducing yourself to our listeners, I would greatly love it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm Selena Johnson. I'm a certified dog trainer. I have my CPD-TKA, and I'm also certified through Kim Brophy's Lakes program as a family dog mediator. I'm based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I specialize in psychiatric service dogs. So service dogs who help people with PTSD, anxiety, or autism, and, in that realm, and pet dogs in general. I have a 4-year-old German Shepherd named Fee and 2 cockatiels. I've been working with animals for about 5 years, but really I did a really deep dive into dog training for the past 3. And I started my journey because I realized that there was this huge lack of service dog trainers in Pennsylvania, especially near like Pittsburgh. And so I really wanted to fill in that gap because I'm all about having people not suffer like I did. And I've also trained a variety of animals. So I have trained donkeys, a ferret, chickens, and of course, dogs. I am obsessed with animals, no matter how big or small. And donkeys are really fun. And what's really crazy about them is that they don't train like a horse does. So sort of my first dip into training, horse training is, it's very like old-fashioned, old style, like you got to make them do it. But donkeys will just stand there and say no.
I love donkeys so much. That's probably exactly why I love donkeys. I am a donkey. You're going to really have to motivate me.
Yeah, they're so sweet, but they will not play games with you.
Oh my gosh. Well, we do have you on for this episode to tell us more about AKC Trick Titles. This is something I actually was like starting to record videos for it. And I was like, you know what? Hold up, Melinda. Let's talk to somebody who knows what they're doing. Make sure we're doing this right, setting ourselves up for success. Because even the submission is kind of a process, especially something that I'm not used to. So can you tell us what Trick Dog is and the different levels that go with it?
Yeah, I'd love to. So AKC Trick Dog Titles, pretty much any canine good citizen evaluator is also a trick dog evaluator. So they don't really say that outright, but basically if you become an evaluator for the CGC, you are automatically a trick dog evaluator. Trick dog is basically done either virtually or in person. It wasn't always virtual though. So when the pandemic hit and people were not allowed to go into training facilities because of COVID, they said, hey, let's make it virtual because there's another program, you might be familiar with it, Do More With Your Dog. That is all virtual as well. So AKC said, let's allow video submissions, which is great. I love it. Trick Dog has, I believe, 4. No, I can't count. 5. I believe it's 5. I might be wrong. 5 different levels. We have Trick Dog Novice, Trick Dog Intermediate, Trick Dog Advanced, Trick Dog Performer, and Trick Dog Elite. And the requirements for these are pretty much the same, but they're a little different. And I'll talk about the differences in a second. For Trick Dog Novice, though, Trick Dog Novice wants you to record your video or participate as if your dog basically knows nothing. It is the easiest title to get, and I love that. It is, again, I am a person who loves trinkets, who loves certificates. I love awards. I love just anything that rewards me for doing a good job. I love
Collectibles, yes.
And Trick Dog Novice is so easy that a lot of the times when you take a CGC class, sometimes they'll actually wrap it into the CGC class. But for Trick Dog Novice, you can reward your dog and you can lure your dog. So again, it sort of acts like you've never or you've barely trained your dog at this point. If your dog has already passed the Canine Good Citizen test, you only have to do 5 tricks. Otherwise, it's 10 tricks.
Okay.
And the 10 tricks that you can do are things like a hand signal for sit, down, or come, touch a target, your hand, a target stick, go into your kennel, puppy push-ups, which is, just saying sit, down, going into a tunnel, spinning in a circle, shake hands, doing a jump over a low bar, getting on a low platform like a climb or a Cato board, get into a box or like a laundry hamper, crawl at least 5 feet, speak, balance beam, which is can you walk across like a 2x4 on the ground, have them kiss your cheek or lick your cheek, hold an object for only 3 seconds. That can be a toy, a dumbbell, get your leash, toy, or brush, find a treat hidden under a cup, or fetch. So a lot of these things, for most people, they've got most of them down already. I know almost everyone in my puppy class knows shake, and it's just like the first thing everybody teaches their dog.
Yeah.
And what's really funny, though, is that you can lure for all of these as well. So you can lure, you can reward, and so it makes it just a really accessible title. When you do film
it's
it,
just showing you're doing something with your dog.
Yeah, exactly. And when you film it, it doesn't even have to be all in one take. And recently they got rid of the rule that said you had to do each of these twice. So I think last year, if you recorded this, your dog had to do everything twice. But now they say you can just do it once.
That's awesome.
For Trick Dog Intermediate, another thing to say before I forget is at every single level, you have the option of doing 2 handler choice tricks. So if there's a trick on there that, isn't listed, you can still do it. These are just sort of like suggestions, basically.
Okay.
For intermediate, you can have them balance on a ball or a peanut. They can balance a treat on their nose or head, carry an object, catch a toy. So, tossing them a toy and having them catch it. Closing a door, close a drawer, crawl at least 5 body lengths, fly ball. If you're unfamiliar with what fly ball is, it's basically run over to a target, grab the ball, and run back. Okay. Fetch from 20 feet ahead. So basically, it shouldn't be a light toss. It should be a good throw. Go find the handler. So basically, you would go hide in another room and ask your dog to find you. A puzzle toy. They can just solve a puzzle toy as one of the tricks. Head down, heeling with an auto sit, jumping through a circle like a hula hoop or your arms, leg weaves. The leg weaves can be lured. It's the only trick in intermediate that can be lured. Open a door, open drawers, pause up on your arms, pull a toy on a string, push a button, ring a bell. And the difference between those actions is that a button is on the ground and a bell is like mounted onto like a wall. Roll over, the shell game. So you have 3 cups and you sort of move them around and your dog has to pick out where the treat is. Sit pretty, teeter totter. So sort of, a seesaw. You can use agility equipment for that or a seesaw from a playground. Turning on a lamp using like a touch lamp, waving goodbye and hello, weaving through 6 poles, or a wobble board. So simply getting on a wobble board.
Yeah.
And you can reward
And
for every single trick.
okay. So you can reward, but you can't lure except for the weave of the legs.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And pretty much all the levels you can reward them immediately after every trick, which I think is pretty neat.
Yeah, I love that.
For advanced gets a little bit more complicated. So novice and intermediate, I think, are pretty attainable, but advanced is usually where people get stuck, including myself. I've gotten lazy. But advanced, the tricks kind of skyrocket in difficulty. So the tricks for advanced are walk backwards. They want you to balance a treat on their nose and flip to eat successfully. So your dog has to eat it successfully in advance. Take a bow, basketball, grab a ball, put it through a hoop. Doing a barrel roll, so pushing a barrel with their paws. Cover themselves up with a blanket. Cover their eyes with a paw. Doing a circle right, circle left. Identify a toy from 2 other toys. So if your dog has a special toy, you can be like, go grab the kitty cat, or, whatever you want to call it.
That.
Hide your head either under a blanket, a pillow, a desk. Go hide. So hide your entire body, not just your head. Jumping into your arms. Probably best not to try that with a really big dog, but maybe you can.
Do tricks within your,
yeah. Jump onto your back. Doing a lassie pose. So what a lassie pose is a sit with one paw up. Doing a leg weave while you're walking. Turning on a light. Open a door and grab an object and bring it to you. Pay for it. So basically you would do a little skit where you would say, okay, you want this toy? Go grab me some money. And they would go grab the money and give it to you. Pickpocket. So while you're walking, your dog needs to pick your pocket. So usually, your back pockets of your pants.
Give me a break.
Pivoting.
Oh my God.
Play dead. Pulling a bag with an object. Removing slippers or your shoe. Retreat, which I think is really, really hard. That's basically crawling backwards a distance of I think it says 3 body lengths. I think that's ridiculously hard.
Whose
and it has to be crawling, not just backing up.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It has to be crawling.
So I'll never be doing that.
Retrieve a flat item like a credit card. I have been saving my expired credit cards for this because my dog, being a German Shepherd, does not have a soft mouth. So sometimes they get a little crunched. A reverse circle around a handler. Say your prayers, which is basically, a dog sort of doing that. It's hard to explain.
Like when they put their head down almost,
Sort of. Yeah, I think it's like putting your head down with your paws out.
Up. Sometimes you use a item that their paws are on, and then they kind of tuck their head in between.
And then scent articles. So basically, can they pick out your scent from an article? And there has to be a minimum of 5 objects. Shake off. So they're coming in after being out in the rain. So physically shaking their entire body. Singing, talking. So if you start singing, they sing. Or if you're talking to them, they're having a conversation. Sit or down at a distance of 15 feet. Smush, where you have a plexiglass and they smush their face into it and you kind of see them do that really silly face smush.
Stop it.
Smile, where they're showing their teeth. They can do a sit pretty and add the lassie pose to it. So one paw should be raised up while they're doing a sit pretty, which I think is really difficult for a lot of dogs. Sneezing on cue, which again, I'm that's kind of hard. So taking a tissue out of a box gently, going under a handler. So if you were to do sort of that bridge with your body, they would go underneath you. Taking toys out of a box, walking on their hind legs assisted, or doing weave poles with no lure. So advanced just kind of skyrockets in difficulty. Like some of the stuff are kind of easy, or at least I think they're easy. But again, a lot of it is just like, holy cow, now I have to start buying props.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plan whole skits and sketches.
I think I
Yeah.
want
Oh
to
my,
just observe and see how cute
yeah.
these tricks are.
And
I mean,
then
it sounds
we have,
difficult.
it is, and then we have performer. So for Trick Dog Performer, it gets a little weird. So for performer, what performer really is that before COVID, you used to have an audience. So it actually required an audience for performer. Now they sort of waived that because of COVID. You're allowed to do other tricks from other levels as long as you're not repeating them. And you can do a minimum of 3 tricks from the performer list. So let's say you never did shake hands, which is a novice trick. You can do that in performer.
Okay.
So, but you have to do at least 3 performer level tricks.
Gotcha.
And then when you do record your video, it should be in one shot, like you were doing a performance for like, a church or a school, or, as like a fun little show on the road.
Yeah.
They want you to
So
have fun
one
with it
take
that way.
that has everything in it.
Yep. And you can still reward though. So at least you can, still reward your dog with cookies and anything that they like.
I mean, this is a pretty big ask. I would hope that we could still reward our dog. That's a lot of stuff. My goodness.
Yeah. And for performer, there's it's not you don't necessarily have to have like a skit for performer, which is still kind of nice. You can most people do make a skit, but you don't have to have a skit. And I'll explain like the difference, what a skit is in the next level. But performer, you have to pick 3 tricks from this list. It's answer a question such as, do you like? So you would hold out 2 toys and say, do you like ice cream or do you like coffee? And maybe you have an ice cream toy and a coffee toy, and they would pick which one. Putting a ball onto a small cone, blowing bubbles. They need to be buried underneath a pile of toys and only pop out on cue. Carry a stuffed animal on their back, dig on cue, doing a figure 8 without the handler. So just sending them through some props to do a figure 8, get into a suitcase and close the lid, jump through a tissue hoop, jump up and down with excitement, crawl into bed and then roll on their back, doing a ladder, so walking through a ladder, lift leg to pretend to pee, limping, nodding yes or no, going over and under the handler. I think Disc Dog does a lot of that. Answering
I feel
a
like
phone.
I see a lot of the collies doing a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there's a lot of border collies who do Trick Dog.
Absolutely.
Ring toss. They have to toss at least 3 rings. They have to run in circles around a human or a post. Sit pretty while holding an object in their paws. A lot of people will put like a flag in their paws, especially for 4th of July. That's very popular. Doing a side pass. Soccer, so they have to kick, or I think it's kick. They have to somehow like move a ball into a goalpost or wipe their feet on a mat. So all of these tricks are very complicated. I think the only one that I would say is not super complicated is going over and under a handler. But again, it just kind of skyrockets.
I'm learning my capabilities as a handler and trainer as we're sitting here talking. I don't think we'll probably get to these levels.
And then finally, for Trick Dog Elite. Trick Dog Elite is sort of the top level that you can get. It has to be a skit or a performance. So you have to have a story that you're telling through these tricks. You have to use 5 performer level tricks, 5 props, and 10 tricks total.
Oh my goodness.
This is where it gets really, really complicated. I think my favorite Elite performance is done by this handler who did a skit to the song 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton. I thought that was really cute.
I have to look this up. I'm making a note right now.
I'll send you the link later.
Please.
But pretty much that's like the hardest part. And again, it has to be in one take. So for most people, I would say even for people like me, I would just do advanced and kind of stop there. I might get to performer or elite, but it's not really my top priority. But I think these are really fun titles to do. And again, like criteria for judging, you should be having fun. Like it shouldn't be super stressful. Have fun with your dog. No corrections, so you can't correct your dog. Your dog should not be wearing any adversive, so no prongs, no e-collars, nothing like that. Because a lot of these things don't really require, I feel like a leash would get in the way for a lot of these. My dogs have done all of these with no leash. And asking only once. So you shouldn't be asking your dog to do these tricks over and over again. It should just be, you cue them once and they go ahead and do it.
That makes sense. Oh my goodness. You said that's where it gets difficult. I'm listening to all these like, holy cow, these are all difficult. So what if somebody sends you in like a new client evaluation? Like, I need to learn how to do a whole skit where my dog picks my pocket and does this. Do you have someone you refer out to do these things? Or is this really where having fun takes its place and it's the journey of figuring these things out with your dog?
I would hope that if they were asking me for Trick Dog Performer, that they would have, the prior titles before them, so they kind of understand how to work with tricks. But I don't really refer out for this just because I really love doing tricks. So one of the things that I've kind of figured out is that if you think about it, the things that service dogs do are pretty much useful tricks. Some of these actions actually are legitimate tasks that dogs can do, such as, retrieving a flat item or turning on a light or opening a door to grab an object and then closing it.
You're just reframing it for the task of the test, it sounds like.
Yep. And so like I love learning things and I make it a point to learn these things, even though they aren't really necessary for myself, just because it's useful for the kind of dog training that I want to do. But otherwise, it really should be fun and low key. And how I tell people is we break things up into really small pieces. So, for example, let's take pickpocket, for example. What I might do is I might put a toy in my back pocket and my dog already knows, like, get your toy. And I would just say, get your toy. And I would reward them for that. And then I would add movement. So I would then move and ask them to get the toy. And hopefully my dog doesn't push me to the ground, but she would grab the toy from my back pocket and get rewarded for that. Eventually I would phase in just a different object that isn't a toy and help my dog kind of connect the dots. So while these things are really complicated, sometimes if you break them down into really small pieces and just gradually make them harder or different, your dog usually is smart enough to connect the dots.
Absolutely. I mean, that's any sequence learning we have to do for our dogs. We're going to start by isolating those individual behaviors and shaping. So even for someone who maybe doesn't have a dog that knows how to go grab something, that's what you would start with. Maybe just teaching your dog how to grab an item and slowly building on this. But I like that as a trainer, you're not like, hey, I don't know how to teach a dog this, but hey, let's figure this out. This sounds like something I want to know how to do. And that's really cool. I like that. Bethany, did you have any questions on this? I think we may have lost Bethany for a little bit. But yeah, other than that, it sounds intimidating to me because as a trainer, I've never worked with any kind of trick dog, CGC, or anything like that, and more of basic obedience and field stuff. But you're right, even when it came to field training, I had to remind people all the time that a lot of what we train our dogs to do, we can shape into other behaviors. There's not always this other kind of training that we need to do for field or trick or anything like that. It's just isolating behaviors they already know and shaping those to service us in other areas.
Yeah, and what I like about Trick Dog is that you don't have to leave your house to do these things most of the time. And it's just something where sometimes you just need to break the monotony of training for something very serious. For service dog training in general, sometimes we get so caught up and we sort of have this like this big negative feeling of like, oh my God, is my dog going to be able to do this? Like I'm stressing out and all this stuff. And sometimes it's just fun. Hey, let's just teach how to speak on cue. It's going to be fun. Like, if you can't do it, it's not a problem. Which is why I like there's such a large variety of tricks that if your dog can't do one trick, it's not a big deal. We'll just move on to something else. And every level allows you to come up with 2 tricks. So if there's a trick on there that you want to teach that isn't on there, you can just go ahead and teach it. But I do like how it's just like, it's really not a big deal if your dog can't do certain things. For example, my dog, she can't roll on her back. It just physically is really uncomfortable for her. And I don't need to force her to roll on her back. We can just learn something else. Which I think kind of helps bring the pressure off of being like, it's not like obedience where if we have an obedience competition, it's like you have to learn this to get that title. There's no other alternative.
I like
So
that.
I had a question on like the judging aspect too. I know we talked about that earlier on, but one of my questions was the CGC evaluator can also judge or take care of the trick titles. Is that for all of them or is it limited?
No, it's for all of them. So I can evaluate all the way to Trick Dog Elite, and it can be through video or in person. Now, for video, my criteria is basically I don't want to see any corrections from the dog, whether that's verbal or physical, and I want to see the dog having fun. If the dog is doing all of the tricks, but I notice that they're kind of slow and kind of not having fun, I don't fail them, but I often will point out like, hey, let's try doing this instead whenever you submit your next one. But if I see a dog who is just having the time of their life, I think my dog's Trick Dog Intermediate, she like jumped off a stand that I made her so fast that she kind of like whiplashed. But she was just having the time of her life. Just like, she's like, yes, I'm doing all these things.
I love that.
But I will make like a huge stink about it. I'll be like, your dog is having so much fun. I love this so much. Like, it's so fun to watch. And I really just encourage people. Like, I just want to jump up and down for people and be like, you are doing amazing. But other than that, it's pretty lax. Like, it's not the most serious title. But, it's one of those things where I think, like, especially with the video evaluations, it's so accessible now that I just want everyone to do it.
Yes, I think it really reinforces that human-animal bond, and that's something I can really appreciate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah, I was gonna Q&A. Yeah, it's just more stuff to do with our dogs, And you mentioned this earlier, but I mean, it's cold, it's winter. I know we're not in the field with our dogs right now. We're not dock diving, so it's just something else to keep us working with our dog, especially when as humans we get burnout in all senses, and it definitely, burnout doesn't not touch our dogs as well. So it's something that we can do that's new and fun and gets us kind of reignited into working with our dogs. So I love the idea of it. And again, that's why I wanted to chit chat with you today. I know I'm going to start recording my videos for Trick Dog Novice. I'm going to start submitting them to you. Now, if other people want to find you as an evaluator, how do they do that?
So if you want me to evaluate your Trick Dog videos, you can just send me an email at phenomenalcanine@gmail.com. You can reach me at my website, phenomenalcanine.com. You can also just send me a message on Instagram as well. Probably not TikTok, although my usernames are the same, phenomenal.canine. TikTok is just very weird. They don't allow you to message unless you're mutuals. But otherwise, Another resource that you can do is if you are working with a CGC evaluator currently, you can ask them as well, because every CGC evaluator is a trick dog evaluator. And then another thing you can do is there are Facebook groups for this as well. Once you do receive your evaluation, the really nice thing that AKC has finally done after all these years, they have entered into 2020 with modern technology, is that you can actually submit your paperwork online instead of mailing it in. So
awesome.
I don't know why it took them this long, but you can now submit it online.
That is excellent. Long time coming for sure.
Yeah, more dog organizations need to get with it. I think somebody on TikTok was like, things to leave behind in 2022, mail-in check submissions for dog sports.
I know.
And I'm like, yes, please. Now,
it's so
you did.
bad.
It is. It's like it's 2023, guys. Come on. So I love this. I'm excited to get going now. Two things before we go. And Bethany will definitely remind me after I ask this question. I know we want to make sure you mention anything that maybe we've missed out, but when it comes to the submitting online, so as somebody who is going to work with you, can you just run through with me how you would like me to submit those videos and what that looks like?
Yeah, personally, I would love a submission either through Google Photos or Google Drive, just because it makes it easy for me to scroll through the video. However, I will also accept submissions that are through TikTok. They're just not 100% my favorite because I can't scroll through. I have to watch the whole thing again. But I also accept YouTube submissions if you want to put it on YouTube and have it be public or private. Doesn't matter to me. But pretty much anything that I can scroll through the video physically if I need to is preferred.
Gotcha. So not videos each on their own, but maybe something that's compiled of all of them that you can scroll through and see each of them as you need to.
Yeah, definitely not individually. Especially if you're
gotcha.
submitting 10 tricks, it just is a lot.
A lot.
And for the most part, a lot of people only charge between $10 and $20 for each title evaluation. So it's not a ton of money, but anything that you can do to make your evaluator's life a little easier is, generally preferred. And I've even told people, like, put it into TikTok and make it a private video and then download the video. And it still makes it really easy. There's also free programs such as Movie Maker or iMovie. There's so many video editing apps out there that are free and easy to use.
Absolutely.
I'm jotting down all the notes.
I love that.
And I just love getting these videos because it's a highlight of my day. It's like, oh, I get to watch somebody do fun things with their dog.
Yeah,
like, I love
and like
this.
you said, especially if they're having fun, I feel like that would be so cool. I'm gonna have to see what evaluatorship looks like because that does sound fun. Just have people submit videos to you all day, and you just get to watch them having a good time bonding with their dog. And then before we bounce off of here, I just want to make sure we've touched on everything that you consider important when it comes to the trick dog. Is there anything we're leaving out that you want to make sure our listeners are aware of?
I don't think so. I think we've hit all the points for this one. And
just have fun, have fun.
Yeah, just have fun and make sure that, you're not stressing over a trick too much. And if you need to, definitely, like, even if it's a one-time consult, I can't speak today. Even if it's like a one-time meeting with somebody who, is familiar with trick dog and dog tricks, learn something new and increase your skills as a dog handler and dog trainer. And, don't take it too serious.
Yeah, it's like all dog training, right? We're supposed to have fun, and it's very human of us to get frustrated and get upset. But just remember that. And on a positive note, if you feel yourself starting to get frustrated, finish on something your dog does wonderful and reconvene at a later time, But thank you so much for joining us. Again, I'm so excited to record these videos. It's a snow day, so I think I might just spend the rest of my day recording novice trick dog videos. Bethany, my co-host, love ya. Thank you for popping on with us. And Selena, thank you. Can you remind our listeners where and how they can find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram or TikTok under phenomenal.canine. You can also find me in Pittsburgh, PA, where I live and just opened my brand new facility. And you can, thank you. It's been a headache, but I'm so happy it's open. And you can also find me at phenomenalcanine.com. And thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, well,
Yay,
I'm excited.
thank you for coming.
Yes. Well, wonderful. Everybody join in next week as we bring you another episode. And don't forget to check Selena out. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay warm.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Next Generation Dog Podcast. Weekly episodes are released on Fridays on Spotify and YouTube. Please follow the Next Gen Dog Pod on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, and Facebook. For even more content dedicated to all things dogs, follow Urban Uplander Pet Care and Sanguine Moon Kennels on Instagram and Facebook.